D, it feels good to sit down.
I'm lying about that. We've been running for the last, I think, 20 days for me. But before we get started, like that video was amazing. But just to put a thought starter in your brain is there was a lot of product in that picture, in that video. But at the same time, what I want you guys to think about, product got to be designed by people. That video didn't show that there's designers. You know, some of the product that was in that video has been designed by people that are actually here today. So I just want to give the designers in the building a round of applause before we get started.
Absolutely. So music and fashion have been two of the most influential cultural forces shaping our society in a multitude of ways. Music, and specifically footwear, have always pushed boundaries and challenged societal norms. We've witnessed artists use fashion as a powerful tool for self-expression, and footwear designers take inspiration from music to create unique and innovative designs. Today, these creative intersections continue to shape the cultural fabric of our society while offering countless opportunities for innovation and growth within both industries. So for my panelists, and we are so happy to have you all here today, where were you in life when you realized the intersection between music and creative culture?
Start?
Of course, you're going to make me start. I was going to say ladies first.
I'm happy to jump in.
Ladies first.
There you go. So, you know, it's interesting. I grew up in the Midwest, not too far from here, in Akron, Ohio.
Okay.
And yeah, all my Northeast Ohio people in the building, yeah. And a friend of mine right now, she's a journalist, and she's doing a piece on the origins of hip hop given the 50th anniversary. And she was asking my husband and I, who's also from Cleveland, was hip hop really popping in Northeast Ohio in the early 80s? And we were both like, no, because it wasn't in the streets, and we only had R&B stations. So for me, fast forward to going away to college in Atlanta, shout out Morris Brown in the house, my HBCUs. There you go, AUC. You know, that was really when I understood this intersection. And I didn't realize how important what was happening in Atlanta in the mid-90s was. It was the broadening of hip hop culture overall. It was no longer just the East Coast and the West Coast. There was like the South got something to say. And I was in the middle of it. I was seeing like Outkast and Goody Mob and all these groups really like change the face of hip hop and of culture. People were talking about different things. They were wearing different things. And so that for me was like the first time I really understood how powerful that intersection was.
That's what's up.
He's still thinking about what part of his life.
What's that?
He's still thinking about what part of your life you want to think about.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you a real specific thing, and it was actually like early in my time when I was at Nike, prior to where I am now. And it was around 2006 or so. I was pretty new to the company. And I remember the entertainment marketing part of the organization. We're talking about this new collective that had formed, this ASAP group. And nobody knew what that was or who they were or anything. And it was really early on. And I just remember distinctly some of those conversations around thinking about this new emerging talent and how that intersected with the creativity that we were trying to drive from a marketing standpoint within a footwear and apparel company. And being new to the company at the time, I hadn't really thought about that intersection as directly as that particular moment where it was around, again, emerging. It's funny to think of them as emerging artists at the time, but they were emerging at the time. And thinking the way that my colleagues at the time were thinking about that intersection very early on.
Yeah. Kareem, how about you? Because you have an interesting history too.
Yeah, I think, so my first job in the fashion and footwear industry, I was a footwear buyer for a retailer in New York. I'm born and raised in New York, named Dr. J's. And I remember everything to that point had been athlete-based. Like I remember like all the sales, all the driving kind of factors were around obviously Michael Jordan and other athletes that were coming out. Allen Iverson had a huge successful shoe line. And Reebok actually, of all brands, released a music collective-led product Shout out to anybody from Reebok here,
Yeah,
past
they're
and
here,
present.
they're here.
Around, actually the first one was S. Carter, and it was inspired by a Gucci shoe, and they actually dropped a mixtape as part of that first release. So there was an actual music, a body of music that was released, and then there was the product. The product sold out in seconds. It was followed by G-Unit, then there was a collaboration with Daddy Yankee, so that was the first Latin artist to have a collaboration on a product. Pharrell released Billionaire Boys Club through Reebok as well, and all the products sold out and became our top sellers, to the point where, I really started thinking about, well, what other music products are coming out, or music-led products are coming out, and how is that going to compete with basketball sneakers and cross trainers, which were traditionally the biggest sellers for our company. So that moment really kind of crystallized and changed my perspective on music footwear specifically in the industry.
Yeah, I think like over the last, I want to say 5 years, or just recently, there's just been, things change so fast, like music, sneaker culture, just industries are changing quickly. I think, between music and sneaker culture has really been amplified now. Over the last 5 years, what would you guys say are some key moments that you really understand, like, oh wow, music and sneakers really are a marriage that are gonna last a long period of time?
For me, it was, I think Travis and Cactus Jack in 2000, well, that was, I guess, 2007? No, 17, sorry. So 2017, Jordan Brand, Nike released a Cactus Jack collection. Needless to say, the response was huge, and just seeing kind of like how consumers were gravitating to that product, and how a musician could reach that breadth of consumer that quickly, while still being a relatively young artist and developing their brand. I think that was one of the most kind of impactful moments. And obviously Virgil, and he was super inspired by music, and if you asked him even till late, he'd probably say he was a DJ as much as he was a designer. He was so influenced by music. Yeah. But yeah, I think those two releases really kind of were probably the two most impactful for me in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, I'd say for me, what's really been a big shift is, streaming and social media, I think, has totally democratized the music industry writ large. And it's made it so that all of these different genres that maybe weren't getting their due in the past now are, because you had people in Latin and hip hop and all these other genres for decades, screaming, we are, the most popular genres, and now that streaming has come to life, you see that. And so what that has caused is this globalization to an intersection of music and culture. So I remember when I was at Under Armour, I was responsible for taking our global athletes on tour across the world to help grow our international business. And I was taking Steph Curry on our first tour of Asia to launch one of his signature sneakers. And we were in front of tens of thousands of Chinese fans, and we dropped Biggie Smalls and they went nuts. They knew all the words, they knew everything. And I asked my China team, do most of the people here speak English? And they were like, no, but they know your music. Yeah. And so this intersection, the globalization, the democratization of culture and how that intersects with, overall how we change the landscape, I think is really a moment that stood out for me.
Yeah, I think we're kind of in the midst of a lot of stuff right now, particularly, in our space of music and our connection with artists and bringing that connection between artists and fans, right? And giving them more opportunities to kind of connect with their fans beyond just the music, And so particularly within the realm of merch and product creation, and having to be able to use that as a means to kind of connect with their fans. We're doing a lot of work, Kareem's doing a lot of work in that space, working with artists and creators and making that just another vehicle to connect with their fans beyond just streaming music.
Yeah. A follow-up to that, we talked about the last 5 years, where do you see the next 5 to 10 years going? How does that relationship continue to grow and do more things for Evolve? Yeah.
I think innovation is going to be a key point. Us continuing to work with artists and creatives to create the evolution of what shopping and music feels like, whether it's through their tours or festivals, online businesses, and really kind of creating almost experience-led just ways for customers to interact with their favorite artists. And obviously, with Amazon being a global company, our ability to reach kind of globally, helping artists expand their businesses globally. I think the next 5 years also, I think musicians will continue to become the muse of the footwear industry and the muse of fashion industries and really kind of further develop that. So yeah, I think that's next 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, to build on that, I think even beyond the muse, like the creators, right? We see Pharrell as the creative director at LVMH. And I'd say, for me, I think a big shift is this notion of brands being willing to co-create and collaborate with creators versus like dictating to them. The three of us, we all are coming from LA. We were at our first Amazon Music Live show, which is, if y'all haven't checked it out, it's after Thursday Night Football. We had Ed Sheeran this week. We'll have Lil Durk coming up, Fade, a couple other cool artists. Check it out. But our host is 2 Chainz, and so we were all talking to Chain's manager and really about his thoughts on everything from merch collabs to branding and messaging. And our response is not like, we got this, we know it, thanks. Our response was, that's really good feedback. Let's sit down, let's have a conversation, because we value the input of the artists, of the creators as equals. This is not about we're cutting the check, so we're truly partners. And so I think this shift from dictating to co-creating and collaborating is a big shift that's going to continue to happen. And creators are demanding it.
And Kelly, before you go, Brian, maybe just explain to the crowd, like, collaboration, because it's a big word, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people are always looking to collaborate.
Yeah.
But the word collaboration from the brand side sometimes means something completely different
Yes.
than what the creator wants.
Yes.
And there's stumbles there, so maybe just let them know how you look at collaboration.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've been, in roles in the past where, big brands want to like dictate. We have a point of view and we want to tell creators, this is what you need to do, and like co-sign your name on it. And that's not, as a creator, like I've never been like that, but I know brands can be like that. So when I say collaborate, I mean sit down as joint partners, equal,
collaborate.
yeah, and really like they know whoever the artist is, they know their fans better than anyone. Like Chain's manager knows his fans better than we do. So we need to sit down and talk to them and really understand, how do we work together to bring the best of our brand to the best of his brand together and deliver that for the fans.
Absolutely, thank you.
And to think about it, at least for us to think about it from the standpoint of what's the best of Amazon that we could bring to the table, right? Not just through the lens of music, but how can we leverage the aspects of live streaming, the aspects of merch collaboration, and innovating on the way that we go to market with those things. And that's what we come to the table with in terms of thinking about collaboration and partnership, is looking at it from that lens.
So on that, I mean, are there any changes that you think that we need to make in order to face our future more effectively?
I mean, what I can say from my kind of vantage point, I'm more in marketing than design, although I've been fortunate enough to work collaboratively with some great design teams, is making sure that we are making space for diverse perspectives at all the tables, and not just tolerating those perspectives, but really welcoming them, soliciting them, making them feel at home, nurturing them. Because that's where the new innovative ideas are coming from. And so we know the demographic shifts. We know that there's this shift from a consumer perspective, but we need to make sure that that is translating into the decision-making tables where those perspectives can have their seat at the table and really help guide and shape, how we come to market as brands in partnership with artists, et cetera.
Absolutely. So again, very, very dope video that we got to see on behalf of Amazon Music. And, we've been celebrating the 50 years of hip hop. So how has the 50 years of hip hop impacted sneaker culture, in your opinion?
It's funny, I was thinking about it today. It's like, one way of thinking about it is, without the 50 years of hip hop, I don't know if sneaker culture would be where it would be today. I was literally trying to think about it today as like, if the 50 years of hip hop hadn't come into fruition, what would footwear culture be today? Like, I think they're so integrally tied. I just can't imagine one without the other.
You know, I think that's 100% true, and not just from the like specific product lens of creation, but just the influence of artists. I mean, without artists completely supporting, you know, Nike, Jordan Brand, Adidas, Puma, et cetera, and all the Jordan products that are worn on foot by artists, and just the complete kind of development of the brand sort of through the eyes of musicians, I don't think that the footwear industry would be what it is today. From a revenue standpoint, from an impact standpoint, I think that musicians have completely changed the reach because there's no seasons to music. There's no, you know, play 82 games or play 12 games. Like music is forever. Music is every day. Like the influence of artists is every day, and social media obviously has changed that.
Yes.
So without hip hop, I don't think, I mean, footwear culture as we know it really exists.
Yeah, and for me, it's footwear culture, but its culture writ large would not be where it is without the 50 years of hip hop. I mean, we all know the kind of seminal moment of, you know, My Adidas and Run DMC kind of kicking it off. And when I think about everything from fashion to entertainment to art to sports, you name it, you know, hip hop has put its fingerprints and imprint all across popular culture today. As a matter of fact, hip hop has changed what is considered pop culture. Now hip hop is considered pop culture. And so whether it's, you know, us thinking about the early icons who like have become like titans of industry, whether it be Jay-Z or LL or Puffy, that are exerting their influence all over all parts of society, from the beverage industry where I come from and spend a lot of time, to, you know, the sports industry where Jay-Z is now directing, you know, all the music for the Super Bowl, to our more recent up and coming, you mentioned Virgil, God rest, but also like the likes of Don C, Jerry Lorenzo, et cetera. Those are all, they'll tell you in their own words, they're hip hop inspired. Their brands that are coming forward today were birthed out of the hip hop genre. So I think like culture writ large would not be where it is without the 50 years of hip hop.
Love that.
I was just thinking it's kind of funny. Like an interesting mental exercise would be to imagine in an alternate universe if another genre of music had the same influence on footwear as hip hop had, and where we would be.
Oh, wow.
That'd be super interesting to think about.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I mean, obviously, we're here at Pencil Lewis College. One of the things that we're always focused on is providing access, right? You know, a lot of times we don't even know where the opportunities are because we don't know they exist. I know Amazon Music, I've learned a bunch since we started working together. What are some of the things Amazon's doing to like provide creative communities access and help them grow their platform, their following, whatever they're trying to get done?
I think first is like being here. Like we're super honored to be here with you all today, you know, and I think that's one of the things that that we strive to do is connect with great institutions and creative institutions, and we're striving to do that even more. That's the main thing. So first off, we're super honored to be here. That's one of the primary things, I think. And we've got a number of programs in terms of how we're connecting with HBCUs across across the country.
Yeah, we've also got some great partnerships with the Recording Academy. So you talk about creative culture across music, sneaker culture as well. We're partners with the Black Music Coalition, and we have sponsorships that are a part of that. We have just this past summer, our sister company, Prime Video, has an internship program with Howard University. We worked with them so that we could have one of those interns be on our Amazon Music team as well. So we're thinking about it within our Amazon Music house, but also how do we partner more broadly across the rest of the Amazon entity to do that. And as a matter of fact, when I leave here, I'm going to Washington, D.C., because our head of DEI and the rest of the team is a sponsor of the Congressional Black Caucus Thank you. It's not me. I'm just happy to represent. But like making sure that we're using our influence to change policy, to create opportunities, to partner with institutions, both at scale and in our own individual, ways. I think that is really how we think about it.
I mean, I don't know if we've also had some wonderful conversations with Pensole Lewis about some specific design projects that we're not ready to talk about quite yet, but this time next year, we'll be very excited to share what we've done.
I was going to say shameless plug. I'm going to take
Shameless plug.
Astor's vibe.
Exactly.
It's
Amazon
a
Music-
half plug. It's not a full plug.
Semi-plug.
Half plug, semi-plug. Amazon Music is sponsoring the Black Lights podcast for our second season this year. So shout out to Amazon Music for that. And I would say definitely please listen in and tune in. If you are not subscribed to blackfootwearforum.com, where you're going to get all the newsletters on when we release those podcasts, and we have some heavy hitters on this season. And so we really appreciate Amazon Music and all that they do for the Black Lights podcast, where we drop gems to light the path forward. Shameless plug. But to continue.
Plug away.
Plug away.
Yes.
But we really appreciate and we're really grateful for the partnership. But I know, I think in the conversations that we had here before even coming together, we talked about how Detroit and the people in the room are so entrepreneurial. Yeah. We have, and it's such a diverse audience, to be honest. We have the youth out here, we have sitting executive leadership, but then we also have people who are trying to be able to continue to grow and move forward into and evolve and creators. So why I'm saying that is I'm really curious to know how Amazon Music is growing creative culture by working with the creators.
I mean, and the creator word is so ubiquitous, right? Like, there's so many different, from a music creative standpoint, our goal is to really work with artists of all, sizes, right? So an artist that just started, that wants to start their own, merch company, but doesn't have the resources to do so. We're innovating on kind of our merch on demand business, which allows us to basically do print on demand, get it to customers within 2 days without any artist taking on any production cost, which, for all the people in the audience that have tried to start their own brand, the cost of blanks and production, and it's just difficult. So our goal from a music production and merch standpoint is to really make it easier for artists to create their own lines, to put their graphics up, to generate sales and revenue without having to take on the shipping, the resourcing, the warehousing, the product, like all of the things that really kind of bog down businesses. And that's a huge part of how we're approaching kind of the music creative space and how to innovate from a merch standpoint.
Love that.
Now, I was going to say just, and this is maybe rising up a little bit, I think what I'd love to leave you all with is this, is like, we all have kind of a diversity of backgrounds and experiences, right? And we all ended up kind of landing at the same company. And that creative journey that you're on can take you to places that you never really thought of. It's like, my background is in architecture. I have a degree in architecture. Yeah. And I was at a design and innovation company for a period of time. I was at Nike for several years. I was at an airline for a period of time, and now I'm at a technology company and a music service, right? And so the thing that I want to leave you with is that there's no like magic bullet to that journey by any means, but I think like having an open and broad perspective around the aspect of creativity can lead you to places that you don't even know you're going to land, right? And so I think, we were having a conversation the other day, and you were starting to ask me a little bit about that journey, and for me, it's like if you really hone in to the aspect of like understanding people who you're creating for, and that being the overarching way of thinking about things from a creative standpoint, it actually allows you to move across different industries and realms of working, right? And at Amazon, we talk a lot about the customer at the center and keeping the customer at the center and using that as a point of inspiration to think about what we create, right? So the thing I want to leave you all with is that aspect of thinking very broadly, more broadly about your path, then maybe you are, right? Because there's a lot of opportunities for you out there if you open the aperture of what you do. Don't label yourself as a footwear designer or a product designer or whatever. Like keep yourself as a creative individual, right? Focusing on like creating great experiences, and those experiences could come to life through a myriad of means, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I would just build on that to say, like, think about your why too. Like, why do you do what you do? And to Byron's point, very similarly, I've cut across many different industries, but I've always been clear about my why. And so that makes the decision making in what next opportunity I want to take really easy. I like to say my career, looking back, I can say it now, but I didn't know it when I was going through it. I was just open. Yeah, it sits at the intersection of culture, community, and commerce. And the commerce piece is really important because that's my why. I'm able to show how if you, as a brand, if you work in culture, you can drive bottom line impact. And so what that does is it ensures that the brand understands why they need to get involved, but it also makes sure that they are paying the creators, right? Like I make sure that it's a two-way street, and I believe that my role and my seat at the table is to ensure that that fair and equitable exchange is happening, that there's value given to the ideas for creators, particularly creators of color and women that I'm very passionate about, having been a Black woman coming up in the footwear and apparel space, in the sports space. I'm oftentimes the only one in the room. And so it's really clear about my why. So I'd encourage everyone to just think about, you know, your why. And to your point, to Byron's point, if you open the aperture, there's many different lanes. I would have never thought I would have been sitting here working at Amazon Music, but it's been phenomenal to work with, you know, leaders like these guys.
Yeah, we for sure talked about transferable skills and making sure you understand what that skill set and what you hone and what you have opportunity for, and to make sure that you continue to grow and research, you know, and continue to always be a student and learn the things that you don't know.
And search for inspiration. Like
Yeah.
I think the consistently challenging yourself throughout your career and being willing to do something you're not an expert in, right? Like, so I think and it's funny saying this, I guess 20 years into my career, which is a shocking thing to say out loud. It's not being comfortable is sometimes the best thing because it forces you to learn a skill set that you didn't have. And I think that like having that focus and the willingness to try a new thing and the willingness to work for a different type of company than you've worked at traditionally, while it's terrifying a lot of times, it can end up defining your career and being more fulfilling than anything that you've known previously. And as a New York kid, I never thought I'd be, you know, I'd move to the Bay Area and work for a company. And like, I didn't know anything beyond my block, you know, so to expand the perspective and consistently challenge and, you know, take on different types of responsibilities, moving to the music industry from being in sneakers basically for 18 years, it's just having the willingness to really kind of test and learn, which is another kind of defining principle of Amazon.
Absolutely.
Which has been, I mean, really fulfilling.
I think, so don't be too quick to get rid of the discomfort, for sure. They'd hate me if I don't ask this question. You know, there's a lot of people who want to work in a creative career, but then there's people who want to figure out how to work beside Amazon Music. Maybe speak to that, like where's the opportunity for the creators in the room to work beside Amazon versus for Amazon?
I mean, I think to Kareem's point, there's amazing work being done to leverage the tools of Amazon, the scale that Amazon brings, so that creators can plug into that and really like bring their vision to life without having so much friction and cost to get into the space. So like that feels like a natural place to get involved. In the work that both Byron and I do, we work closely with many creative agency partners, whether that's advertising agencies, creative agencies, and we're very like always thinking about how we can bring diverse perspectives into the room, design agencies as well. So those are just a couple of places to, like you said, work alongside and not for,
From a product standpoint, I think there's also the opportunity to, and we've consistently looked at brands that we can work with where we can align with musicians and artists and bring all of that together. And I think that's going to grow as we look at kind of the opportunities and working with the different artists. Because musicians are passionate about that as well. You know, so I think for the creatives in a room, it's putting yourself in a position to have the dialogue, you know, obviously with us, but with the musicians, and really, you know, have a perspective on the brand that helps us kind of put that grouping together.
Speaking of musicians, Beyonce, Renaissance Tour, Amazon Music, how was that? How did that even come about?
Yeah.
That's 'cause she points to Kareem.
Yeah, no, I had nothing to do with it, I promise. No, we were very, very blessed and fortunate to work with the Queen on her last tour, on her current tour, from a production and distribution capacity. So her tour merch was produced and distributed by Amazon. It was an incredible kind of learning, you know, to work with obviously an artist at that level, with a team that's that incredible. But translating the graphics and getting the product right, and really kind of making sure that the spectrum of product fit from an artist, you know, standpoint. Like, it's not a plug and play situation. Like, it's Beyonce. We're gonna have to do this a little different.
Yes.
So yeah.
Just a little.
Yeah,
a little.
but that's also like, I think that's the beauty of Amazon too, is there is the white glove capability, there is the ability to really kind of hone in and make it really kind of special and elevated, and have, you know, a presence, you know, in physical events as well as kind of online, and really just creating kind of that moment. So incredible experience. Obviously, we're very grateful to work with her and her team. And yeah, and I think as this evolves, we're very excited because there's a lot of artists that are going to have similar.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
So something, you know, as we continue to go through season 1 for the Black Lights podcast, we've kind of developed our own kind of, I would say, key questions that we ask when we have our guests on. And one of the ones that I love that I can't take any responsibility for is all Dion, but it is called Tunnel Talk. And so one of that is, we all know, and I may not do this any justice, but I'm gonna try. But, you know, we all know that, you know, every day we wake up, we have to look ourselves in the mirror, right? And we show up as ourself and our full authentic self inside of our home and, you know, our everyday life with the people we're comfortable with. But when you have to walk into that room and kind of be outside of yourself, and the reference really came from, and I'm sorry, I'm taking your thunder, but this is where it came from. It came from Serena Williams. And if you've ever watched her in a match, right before she goes into the match, she's in the tunnel. And, you know, she walks out and she has this beautiful smile on her face when she first comes out of the locker room, and then she's in the tunnel for some time. And then when she goes out on that court, baby, she's ready for business. And so, you know, just to wrap up in our last question, we'd like to know, just because of the wealth of knowledge on this stage, what does Tunnel Talk look like for you? And that conversation that you're playing in your head when you're getting to go to war.
I love this idea, Tunnel Talk,
Okay.
especially like with what we're seeing with Deion Sanders and the Buffaloes and
Yeah.
Lil Wayne, like leading the team out. I love the question. So for me, Tunnel Talk goes back to what I said of thinking about my why and reminding myself of that before I step into the room. And specifically making sure that I'm always willing to have courageous conversations. I've been fortunate enough to have a seat at the table. And so, you know, earlier in my career, I was a little tentative, like, do I say the thing? And then I remember one time I was in a room and I was working with a bunch of Black leaders and they had all left the company. And then I was in a room and something crazy happened. And I was like, oh, wow, who's gonna be, when they look around and say, who was the Black leader in the room when that happened? I was like, oh, it's me. I'm the one. I have to say the thing. And so that was a breakthrough moment for me to really just remind myself to always be willing to have the courageous conversation, say the thing that a lot of times everybody's thinking, but people are fearful to say. So that's just my thing, and it ties back to my why. I know who I represent, I know who has supported me on this journey, and I know who I'm responsible to as part of having the seat at the table. So that's my Tunnel Talk.
Mine's kind of similar. Like, I look at it from the standpoint of I'm really clear about where I've been and what I've done. Like, unbelievably clear about it, you know? And I'm clear about, like, the impact that I've made in the places that I've been. And so I just remind myself of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you know, one of the things that I wanted to tell you all is like, you can get into a mindset of like, you see a position or something, you're like, that's not me. No, it is, and it can be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I just remind myself of what I've done, where I've been, and draw like unbelievable confidence from that, right? But at the same time, I come in there with equal amounts of humility and understanding that, you know, a lot of times you're in a place where those places were long successful before you ever showed up, and for a reason. And so you've got to respect that aspect of it as well. So you have to have the humility of respecting the knowledge that may already be in the room, but also come in with the unbelievable confidence of what put you in those shoes that you're in at that time.
And that you're capable.
Yeah.
And I'll be short. Faith
For sure.
Yes.
and always be willing to listen and learn, which is kind of the same thing. So regardless of your position, how far you've come, listen and learn from the opportunity, from the people in the room, and you'll most likely be successful.
We thank you for your time today. We really appreciate you. And safe travels, because I know we're running out to get to a flight, but we will keep in touch to make sure that any questions that come from the audience that we have filtered through you and send back. But thank you all for your time today.
You.